afternoon, everyone. We are coming on the air this noon with some sad news. A giant in West Michigan, Richard DeVos, has passed away. We're told the 92-year-old founder of Amway died from complications from an infection.
Richard DeVos's impact is felt and seen across West Michigan. He played a huge part in shaping the skyline of downtown Grand Rapids. His name is also on multiple college campuses.
Right now, we want to take an in-depth look at the legacy that Richard DeVos leaves behind.
I've told all my children, this is our town, and you are responsible for it. You know, we all have a place we got to honor and take care of. This is your place to take care of. That's the way I feel about this town.
A Grand Rapids man his whole life, businessman and philanthropist Richard DeVos dedicated himself to making West Michigan a better place. DeVos was born March 4th, 1926. He attended Grand Rapids Christian High School along with lifelong friend Jay Van Andel. As teenagers, DeVos agreed to pay Van Andel 25 cents a week for a ride to and from school. DeVos attended Calvin College before serving in the Army Air Corps during World War II. Following the war, DeVos and Van Andel reunited, owning and operating Wolverine Air Service, teaching others how to fly. They expanded their business interests, opening the first drive-through restaurant in the area. They moved on to other businesses, forming the J. Rye Corporation in 1949 to distribute Nutrilite. In 1959, the men started a new company in the basement of their Grand Rapids homes. They called it Amway, short for American Way. Their first product was called LOC, or Liquid Organic Cleaner.
The first founding principle of this business is that our door is open to anyone. The uneducated, the impoverished, the people who don't speak well, our doors are open.
Growing Amway from a company in their basement to a worldwide corporation was not easy.
So those were the hard days where we had to stand up for this business and fight for it when other people accused us of wrongdoing or just not running the business correctly. We've proven this business. Mainly we've proven it works for people who work it.
More than 50 years later, Amway is one of the world's largest direct-selling businesses, operating in more than 100 countries. Rich DeVos married Helen Van Wessep of Grand Rapids in 1953. Together, they raised 3 sons and a daughter. As the family grew, so did the DeVos commitment to West Michigan. In 1978, Amway purchased the historic Pantland Hotel and transformed the building into a 5-star facility, renaming it the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel.
If I'm going to build a hotel, I'm going to build a nice hotel.
In 2007, the company opened a long-talked-about second hotel across the street, the JW Marriott. DeVos Hall, the first major concert hall in Grand Rapids, opened in 1980. 1993 saw the opening of the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, in part due to the $5 million gift from Rich and Helen DeVos. 18 years later, the hospital expanded into a new $286 million, 14-floor, state-of-the-art facility and is a source of pride for the family.
Our joy of watching the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital happen is greater than any benefit you receive from it.
Along with Amway, the other family business is basketball. In 1991, DeVos purchased the Orlando Magic, the arena's appropriate name, the Amway Center. In Grand Rapids, Rich DeVos's philanthropy helped countless organizations, including DeVos Place in 2003, and the Sekia Center, which houses MSU's College of Human Medicine.
And it isn't in grandiose speeches. It is in simple words of encouragement, a pat on the back, a hand on the shoulder, a little, you can do it. And a life can be changed, and our country can be saved.
A renowned motivational speaker, Rich DeVos appeared before many groups expounding the virtues of free enterprise and a can-do attitude. But it is the company he built with his friend and the passion they shared for their community that will be their lasting legacy in Grand Rapids.
And so it is with the achievements we enjoy today. We enjoy them together because we have managed to overcome the things that normally break people apart. And Dick was talking about Jay's Museum or the hospital over here. All those are how we extend ourselves as a family into a broader community and around this country.
Family was important to Rich DeVos. Today, his son Doug and Jay's son Steve run Amway with participation from other members of the family. As the two friends grew older, both experienced health problems. Jay Van Andel battled Parkinson's disease for many years before passing away in December of 2004. Rich DeVos had his own health issues. In 1992, he suffered a heart attack. 1 week later, he underwent triple bypass surgery, his second surgery in 10 years. Early in 1997, DeVos and wife Helen moved to London for a heart transplant. The transplant was a success, and Rich DeVos came back to the company and the community he loved. DeVos became an advocate of organ donation, helping create the Richard DeVos Heart and Lung Transplant Program at Spectrum Health. The program's first heart transplant was performed in 2010. His was a spirit of giving that has benefited West Michigan in countless ways.
I give because the Lord told me to give, but more than that, I give here because this is our town. The town doesn't owe me anything. I grew up here, and I was blessed to grow up here, and it's a good place to be.
Well, the family of Rich DeVos issued a statement on his passing this morning.
It reads, early this morning, our family's patriarch, Richard DeVos Sr., went home to join his dear wife, Helen, with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. These next days will be full of great joy and sadness as our family celebrates a life truly well lived and mourns the coming days without him. We celebrate Grandma and Grandpa's incredible legacy of creation and generosity as a generational chapter closes.
The next generation has already taken up their standard, and another follows close behind. It is an unbelievable honor to carry the name Richard Marvin DeVos III. I pray that we may all continue to build on the foundations they have put down for us, and I give thanks for the gift of many years, far more than we expected, with an incredible man and grandpa.
Anyone who spent any amount of time, as little as a few seconds, with Grandpa knows that he truly, deeply loved people. He was interested in them, in learning what they were thinking and doing. And he was a relentless encourager. Traveling with him was always an adventure as he struck up conversations with any and everyone along the way, curious about what they were doing and thinking and encouraging them in their work and journeys. Not a single visit, even in these final days and moments when he was still able to speak, was spent without hearing words of encouragement from him.
Warmth and care radiated from his entire being. In the minds of many who he wasn't able to meet face to face, Rich DeVos was more of an idea than a man. Larger than life and driven to build and create, his accomplishments are immense, global. But to our Family, he was simply Dad and Grandpa. A dad and grandpa that every single one of us deeply loved, admired, and learned from. We will miss him immensely. Love you, Grandpa. Thank you for everything.
24-hour News 8's Heather Walker is live at Amway's headquarters in Ada right now. Heather, truly a man with a huge impact on West Michigan and really globally.
Employees here at Amway heard the news around the same time we did late this morning in an email. Now, we are told that throughout the week they will have opportunities in order to honor one of the co-workers of the company. Of course, here at Amway, Rich DeVos has not been the president since 1993 when he retired. Today, it is business as usual, although there is a somberness happening here at the headquarters. We are told that a spokesperson is working to speak with us. As soon as that becomes available, we're going to pass it along to you. Reporting live outside of Amway headquarters, Heather Walker, 24-hour News 8.
All right, Heather, thank you. Now, much of the reaction we've heard this morning was to do with Mr. DeVos's immense impact on Grand Rapids. So 24-hour News 8's Joe LaFergie just talked to one of Rich DeVos's partners in his efforts to make Grand Rapids a better place.
Well, David Fry, along with Dick DeVos and the late John Canapa, founded Grand Action. Now, Rich DeVos was a driving force behind that effort that helped promote public-private partnerships that really made downtown what it is today, from the Van Andel Arena to DeVos Place and many other projects. I talked to David Fry soon after we learned of Rich DeVos's death.
The city is a dramatically different place than it was 50 years ago, and much of it's due to Rich's leadership and to Jay's as well. But this is Rich's day of sorrow, and it's a sad day in one sense. It's the passing of an extraordinary individual, but it's also a day of great celebration and joy for a life extraordinarily well lived, and a great example of never quitting, always pursuing the next goal, always doing the right thing, and making a lot of lives richer for being part of not just the Amway organization, but for being part of sharing part of the vision.
Yeah, and there's always been all this talk about the money, the seed money for these projects that either DeVos or the Van Andel family had put aside or put into these projects to help them get started. But it wasn't just the money. Rich DeVos had this ability to share a vision with others and kind of get them enthused and involved, and that carried on, and that's going to be part of the legacy here too, because that carries on for generations.
Sure. A lot of people, a lot of his friends, family. You can see even people in West Michigan. That's the leadership that people aspire to.
Well, and when you see us on a national, see Grand Rapids today on the national stage. I heard a radio station out of Chicago the other day mentioning cities on the up and moving up, and they mentioned Grand Rapids. That didn't happen overnight.
Right.
That happened over the last really 50 years of this kind of investment, and again, getting people behind that idea to move the city ahead.
Rich DeVos, powerful, powerful impact he's had on West Michigan. Joe, thank you. The Orlando Magic, they're reacting to the loss of their owner today.
Casey Jones is here with a statement just in from the team. Casey?
Yeah, Emily, Sue, we've heard so much about what Richard DeVos means here in West Michigan. We're getting an idea now of what he meant down in Florida with the Orlando Magic organization. They released that statement after they sent out this tweet earlier this morning that said Orlando Magic senior chairman Richard M. DeVos passed away today at the age of 92. They ended that with the hashtag #LoveYouRich. Now, the CEO of the team, Alex Martins, issued this statement that said, Mr. DeVos's boundless generosity, inspirational leadership, and infectious enthusiasm will always be remembered. Simply, he was the team's #1 cheerleader and the best owner that a Magic fan could ever want for their team. When the DeVos family purchased the Magic, his vision was that the team and organization would serve as a platform to improve the Central Florida community. That legacy will certainly live on both in the Orlando Magic's community efforts and philanthropic contributions, as well as in the way we strive to play the game with passion, a strong work ethic, and integrity, while also bringing people together from all walks of life. Now, we just got off the phone with the Orlando Magic organization. They opened the season October 17th at home against the Miami Heat, and they tell us they will be wearing a patch on their uniforms to remember Richard DeVos and what he meant to Orlando.
Casey Jones, thank you. So, of course, the impact reaching well beyond West Michigan. You can't miss it here.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yes, but in Orlando as well, and across the world.
One of the things I was interested in hearing Joe talk about, we talked about it earlier when we first came on at 11 o'clock this morning, it isn't just the money. It really is about the vision. And I think that's something that we'll talk about a lot over the next several days, because it isn't just the idea that you have the resources to invest, but you have the vision of revitalizing a downtown. And if you go back to prior to the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel being renovated, the old Pantline, and the big tower being built, and the Ford Museum going in downtown, downtown Grand Rapids was not necessarily the most hospitable place to be. There wasn't a great deal going on there, as a lot of downtowns have in the Midwest. They had kind of subsided. Well, look at it today and look at all of that visionary work that went into it. Yes, it was a lot of money from a lot of people, but it was really about that vision. And also going ahead, it's probably not too early to start thinking about some of the tributes that will be coming in, and we'll see when we get more information about the services, but understanding that Richard DeVos was friends with George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, all former presidents. I would not expect George Herbert Walker Bush to be able to travel at this point, but I would expect some of those will be in. Some administration officials will certainly be here. There will be a lot of people with names that you will recognize that will be paying their respects to Richard DeVos, because he was known, we think of him as our own treasure, but he was known far, far beyond Grand Rapids.
And Rick, really, you talk about having the vision to be able to put these things into play, but he was an incredible motivational speaker. Even the family talking a little bit about how he always wanted to hear what people were doing and what their journey was all about. He inspired a lot of people to rise to the occasion on the big projects in West Michigan, but also even in their own lives.
Yeah, and you always got this sense, and I talked to him, I remember specifically, I saw the video there, over at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel up in one of the upper floors after he had returned back from London, after he'd had his heart transplant. And here was a guy who had been through this amazing physical event in his life. And he still had that same big smile. He had something to say to everybody who walked into the room, and it was always the same thing. And that was after what had to be a very traumatic time, but yet he was, not only was he in a very good mood, but he was willing to share that experience and talk about how it had changed him. And that was not the time that he announced it, but it was obviously the impetus for him to bring the Heart Transplant Center here to Grand Rapids, which had not happened before. So, I mean, there was all of that that I think you have to take into account. I mean, first of all, you have to recognize his immense success as a businessman, but it wasn't immediate. They had a boat that sank. They had some other businesses that kind of did the same thing, and then Amway. And then that really changed the course of their financial fortunes, but that is what allowed him then to be able to follow through on what he saw as a revitalization of Grand Rapids. Without the money, it's obviously difficult to do it, but without the vision, it's impossible to do it.
Indeed. True. Rick, thank you for your insights on that. We want to pass along to you, just as you mentioned, we just received this statement from Governor Snyder. And here's what he said. We have lost an incredible businessman, philanthropist, and true Michigander. The positive impact Rich had on our state is truly immeasurable. Through successful business ventures and charitable endeavors, he created endless opportunities for residents of many different ages and backgrounds. Rich's giving spirit is how we will always remember him, and his legacy is certain to live on forever. Sue and I are sending thoughts and prayers to his loved ones as they reflect on the life of a wonderful man who lived with purpose and compassion for others.
We have a lot more coverage ahead. Please stay with us as our coverage continues as we celebrate the life and legacy of Richard DeVos.